Hello everyone, today I'm going to be talking about the Selection series by Kiera Cass. I finished this series just a couple of months ago, I think it was. I read The Crown and I really enjoyed it, so I just wanted to share all of my thoughts on the whole series together, as I thought that would be a good idea now it's all finished. Quick side note before we start, there will be lots of spoilers in this video, so if you've not read the Selection series and you want to, I suggest you go read it before you watch this video, because there will be lots of spoilers because I'm going to be talking about each individual book. So the first book, The Selection, is where we meet America, and America is a 5. Now a 5 isn't the best kind of community to live in, but it's not the worst either. But her and her family find out that the prince is holding a selection process. So the selection is where 35 girls get chosen to stay at the castle, and at the castle Prince Maxon then chooses between those girls who he would like to be his wife and become queen. So America's family want her to apply for the selection, however America is already in love with a guy called Aspen. Now Aspen is a 6, which is a worse community than a 5, and Aspen and America are the only two that know about them two together. Nobody else knows, so America's family don't know, and now that leaves America in a bit of a sticky situation because she can't decide whether to apply for the selection or not. However, America decides eventually that she will apply for the selection, and so she applies and she gets chosen to be one of the last 35 that go and stay at the castle. As well as all of this princessy castle royalty kind of thing, there's also a war going on between the Northerners and the Southerners, and then the attacks start happening on the castle and it all goes a bit crazy. So for this book I really enjoyed all of the characters, and I really at this point couldn't decide between whether I liked Maxon better or Aspen better. However, now having to think about it, I didn't particularly like how whingy Aspen could be, so maybe I swayed slightly towards Maxon without me really knowing about it at the time, but I do think that was my decision at the time. I can't really remember, but that is how I felt, I think. I also really liked the fight scenes between the Northerners and the Southerners and the attacks on the castle and things, not in a weird way. I don't mean like I really enjoyed that bit, I just mean like it gives the story a bit more action and excitement, and it gives us something completely different to the main part of the story as well. It made the book a lot more fast-paced having those scenes in, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I just flew through this book. I actually read this one within one sitting last year and I absolutely loved it. I just flew through it. So I definitely think that I would reread this book again because it was just brilliant. And I give it 5 stars for this as well. The next book in the series is The Elite, and in this book we follow America and 5 other girls because Prince Maxon has now cut the girls down to 6 girls, and he now has to choose between those girls who goes through to the final process. America is having to think though, but she can't decide whether to go home with Aspen or whether to stay at the castle and compete against all of the other girls. And the fight between the Northerners and the Southerners is still going on, so it's basically all a bit crazy at the castle at the minute because they keep getting attacked and the guards are out fighting, and Aspen is also now a palace guard, so America is really scared for Aspen's safety because the guards, some of the guards anyway, are losing their lives. As well as the guards, they're also starting to target families of the selected girls. So the girls are now really worried about the family's safety as well as the guards' safety, and everything just goes a bit terrifying in this book. And of course, to finish this off, America is now not on great terms with the king, who is Maxon's dad, because she has tried to bring her points across on how she thinks the country should be run and what would make it better and stop all the wars that are going on. But the king does not like this at all. When Maxon stands up for America, he then gets into trouble with the king as well, and he does come off a lot worse than she does. I really like the plot development in this one because we got to learn a lot more about the remaining girls because there was only 6 of them, so we got to find out a lot more personal information about all of these girls rather than when there was much more of them and we only got to find out a little bit about each one, and sometimes we didn't get to find out anything about some of them. The war scenes were really good again, they were really fast paced and really kept you on the edge of your seat as well, because I was just constantly worried about like my favourite characters dying or whether any of them were going to make it. Like, it was just, the way it was written was fantastic and it really kept me on my feet. Maxon started to get on my nerves a bit in this book and I really started to dislike him a bit, but then when we found out more about why he was doing the things he was doing, I kind of understood it a little bit more and I didn't hate him so much for doing it. I also really didn't like Celeste, if that's how you pronounce it. That's how I'm going to pronounce it anyway. I thought she was awful, like really hated her. I just found her so manipulative, so horrible to the other girls. She really just didn't fit in at all, and yeah, I really did not get along with her whatsoever. Even though I didn't like these characters as much, I did think that the writing, the way they were described, was really, really good, because I don't like getting those emotions across the way I felt. I wouldn't have felt that at all if the writing hadn't been as good, I don't think, but because she described them really well, that's why I started feeling so much anger towards them at some points. And I don't mind feeling that during books. Like, if you're not meant to like a character, you're not meant to like a character, and that is how I felt. Now, America in this book also started to get my nerves a little bit because she really wasn't being fair to Max and Aspen, because she still hadn't decided what she wanted, and it just felt a bit like she was playing both of them, and it just really wasn't fair to either of them. So for that side of it, I really didn't like it, but other than that, I did still really like America's character. I just felt sometimes that she really needed to decide what she wanted because it wasn't fair on Aspen and Maxon. Also, a slightly smaller set of characters, the maids. I just found them so cute. Like, I really liked the maids. They reminded me a bit of, you know, the fairies on Sleeping Beauty? Like, that's what they reminded me of. And I love Sleeping Beauty and I love Disney, we know this. But that, I just thought they added some humour to it and they were just so cute, and even though they weren't like major characters, they really had an important role and I liked that. Again, this was a book I flew through and I did give it 5 out of 5 stars because I just love this story so much. And the final book in the original what was gonna be trilogy is the one. Now, it isn't obviously a trilogy now, there are another 2 books which we'll get to soon. But this was going to be the final book in the series. So in this one we follow the final process with America, and Maxon has to pick his wife who is going to become the queen as well. Now, jealousy and conflict starts to arise between the girls because they start discussing the kind of things they've been doing with Maxon, the dates they've been going on and things, and because of some girls seems to be treated nicer than others, this had an effect on the jealousy in the group, basically. The public are also now voting on who they want to see become queen. Now, when Celeste realises she's not in the top 2, she is not very happy and she gets angry and basically annoys me even more, and I still didn't really like her character at this point whatsoever. Now, America and Celeste did have a conversation during this book though that really made Celeste open up to America a bit more, and because of this I did start understanding why Celeste was being the way she was being, how she was treating the girls, and although her behaviour, you know, it should never be excused for, I kind of understood her a bit more, and because of that I started to like her a little bit more as well. I wouldn't say she's one of my favourite characters because she's not, but I did start to like her a little bit more now. I really like the fact that I did, because I think if she didn't open up to America, I would literally just despise her the whole way through. Because of the war that is still going on, the girls are now being taken to the safe rooms because people are getting into the palace now, and obviously the girls' safety is at risk as well as the guards and everybody else who lives there. So a lot of the time they are getting taken to the safe rooms, and as well as that, Maxon has to choose who he wants to be his wife, but that is very difficult because of the war going on and getting in the way of everything. So it's all just a bit crazy, and I like it because it gives the story a lot more action, it's a lot more fast paced, and I think without it, it would be a little bit flat in places, but because we had this war, then I just thought every now and again it was like everything's fine, and then it would just start and it was like, oh my god, is everyone okay? Are my favourite characters going to survive? What happens if they don't? I can't deal. Because once again I was kept on the edge of my seat so much and I absolutely loved the story, this was also 5 stars for me. So the original trilogy was a complete 5-star series and I absolutely loved it. After that, Kiera Cass decided to make kind of like a sequel series to it, but I'm just classing it as one series because I think that is what it's actually classed as. So, the fourth book in the series is The Heir. Now, The Heir follows America's daughter, Edelyn, and Edelyn has to go through her selection process, picking a husband for her who then would become king. So it's kind of like flipped from the original series. Now, Edelyn has absolutely no interest in this process at all. She doesn't really want to find a husband or somebody to stand by her being king, and she is just really not interested at all. So because of this, she decides that she is going to eliminate people very quickly, and in one elimination, she actually eliminates 11 boys. So that is quite major, and the public kind of are a bit shocked by this and don't know how to take the fact she's eliminated so many people and so quickly. Another thing, because she is not interested in the process, she's not really organising to meet up with the guys at all, and so the guys then take it into their own hands to organise dates with her. Once she has been on some of the dates, she does start relaxing a little bit with some of them, but then other ones really don't treat her very nicely, and of course she has to eliminate those straight away. So this kind of makes Edelyn a little bit split on what she actually wants, because some of the guys she's actually getting close to, but others are just being absolutely awful to her. So she's kind of thinking, is any of this worth it? Edelyn also finds out that her brother has just left for France and her mum has had a heart attack as well. So this obviously has a major effect on how she copes with her process with the boys and what she actually really wants. This definitely felt slower compared to the first three books, because I just felt like in the first three, the war scenes really added to the story, and in this we didn't get that kind of thing at all. It was literally just Edelyn's process, so I did find it a bit slower, and I also didn't like Edelyn as much as America either. I found her really annoying and whingy, and I just really wanted to tell her to shut up sometimes and just get on with things, because she was really winding me up. However, saying that, when she did start opening up to the suitors a little bit more, then I did start liking it that little bit more, but I definitely still preferred America. I really liked some of the boys and I really hated some of the boys, and it was basically just the way they were treating Edelyn. Some were really lovely to her and really wanted to try with it, but others were really awful, and to be honest, I'm like, why are you even there? Like, there was no point in you being there, you just wanted to make her life misery. What I expected more of was seeing a little bit more of Maxon and America, and we didn't really get that because I wanted to find out more about how their relationship had developed from the other three stories, but we didn't really get that, and they weren't really present that much in the story at all. Now, I know obviously America is ill, but even just a little bit of story from her when she's been ill would have been maybe a little bit better as well, but we didn't really get any of that, and I would have quite liked to find out a little bit more on that side of things as well, even though they're not the main focus. So I give this book 4 out of 5 stars because it just wasn't quite up to the first 3 books, but I did still really enjoy it. And the final book is The Crown, and this obviously follows Edelyn's process right until the end, and Edelyn also has to become a bit of a leader in this book, and that is because she has to kind of step into her mum's shoes, because her mum can't lead the country because she's obviously not very well. So as well as the selection process for her, she is also running the country, which is crazy amount of stuff to do, but she is actually dealing with it really well, and I definitely preferred Edelyn in this book because she seems to have matured a lot, and she seems to be getting on with things much better than she did in the first book, The Heir. But of course, nothing ever goes smoothly, so someone had to intervene with the selection process, and if Edelyn doesn't do something about this very soon, then a lot of things can go wrong in terms of how the public see her and how they treat her, and also how the country is then led as well. So it's up to Edelyn to decide how she deals with this and where she actually wants her life to go, what she wants from it, and how she thinks the country should be led, but she needs to decide this really quickly, or like I said, things can go really wrong. So like I said before, I did much prefer Edelyn in this book, as she was just a lot less annoying and she'd matured a lot, and I definitely preferred her in this book compared to The Heir. I do still, however, prefer America. I really liked finding out more about each of the boys in this story, because again, we didn't really get to find out that much in the first part of the selection process for them because there's so many of them, but because they're narrowed down now, we do get to find out a little bit more, and I much preferred that because we get to see their development through the process and how they're dealing with it. I did feel at the end of this book, however, there was still quite a few unanswered questions. So questions like, is America okay? and what happened to the guy who was intervening with the selection process and basically making things a lot more difficult for Evelyn. They didn't really get answered, and I would have quite liked to know more about that. So because of that, and because of just not liking Evelyn as much as America, and things annoying me a little bit, I did only give this 4 stars as well. But like I said, I did still really enjoy it, that's why I give it 4 stars. It was still a great read, I just couldn't quite give it 5 stars. So that is it for my review on the Selection series. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and also by all means leave any comments in the description box below. That is completely fine, and I will do my best to answer any of the questions you've got, or if you've read the Selection series as well, let me know what you thought of it. That's it for this video, and I will see you all in my next video very soon. Bye!